Welcome to episode 156 of the Sports Geek podcast. On this week's episode, I chat about the evolution of database marketing with Spencer Horner from the LA Galaxy.
Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host, who stopped his football career after one game with Mark Bosnick, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. Yes, it was not a long and illustrious football career. I did play in a media game as part of the warm-up to the Asian Cup in Australia, and Mark Bosnick, a former Socceroo, and Craig Moore, a former captain and Socceroo, played in the game, and I actually took over from Bozza, who's now a legend of the game and a legend on Australian football TV. He was a Socceroos goalkeeper, but he did not want to stay in the goals, and I decided to go in the goals to replace him, and I practically almost broke my little finger. It's still not quite bending properly. So, but then again, I did look at Mark Bosnick's fingers, and they were pointing in different directions. So thanks again for the opportunity to play with Bozza. But yeah, my football career was short and sweet. My name is Sean Callanan, and that's probably what I should have done at the start of the show, but Sean Callanan from the Sports Geek podcast. You're either listening to this on iTunes, your favourite podcast app, or you might be doing it at sportsgeekhq.com. You might go to the website every now and again. As always, you can contact me, Sean, at sportsgeekhq. What I did, I'm recording this post-Seat Atlanta. As I said in the previous episode, I'm also recording this intro-outro at the site of my first seat at the JW Marriott here in LA. And just early this morning, I went and chatted with Spencer Horner, who was another attendee of multiple seats. He was also there in Atlanta. He is the senior manager for database marketing at the LA Galaxy. So I thought it would be a good time to go back and talk to Spencer. I met him a couple of years ago, and obviously we've spoken previously with Aaron Lavallee, who gets mentioned in this interview, around some of the things they've done from a database marketing point of view for the LA Galaxy to progress fans through their database and sort of continually escalate them up from single season ticket holder to multiple tickets. So I caught up with Spencer Horner at StubHub Centre earlier today, and here's our chat. Very happy to be here in the conference room underneath, effectively, StubHub Centre here in Los Angeles, and happy to welcome Spencer Horner, Senior Manager of Database Marketing for the LA Galaxy. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Sean.
So, it's good to catch up with you. I think we were just reminiscing. I came through here after catching up with Lisa Bregman and did a bit of a tour, and I think it was 2012, which is when I first met you, and made the impression with my business card. Did the business card trick and got the team right. Can you tell me what the card that I handed you?
Yeah, it's a funny story because I used to live in Australia a long time ago, and in Adelaide specifically, and Sean, I think, has this thing where he tapes basically his business card information on various trading cards, and I got one from the South Australia's own mighty Adelaide Crows, and I thought that was awesome because from living in Australia, the Crows were my favorite footy club, so a little bit of a connection there, so that that made it easy to remember. And I mean, obviously, since then, we have a lot of common connections through Aaron Lavallee at AEG, the Seat Conference, and a lot of other interactions.
And I don't normally run into Crows fans. I mean, there's a lot of Crows fans out there, but I don't normally expect to be walking into an organisation in LA and say, because most people look at the cards, and I have used the trick, and I've actually got new cards now that I'm on the trading card. But that was my little hack for the first 7 years of Sports Geek. But yeah, most people would get the card and go, "What's this? Is this rugby? Is this Aussie rules?" And you're straight away going, "Oh, that's my Adelaide Crows."
Yeah, exactly.
So takes a little bit through. When did you join the Galaxy? Just a little bit before we met.
Yeah.
And take us through what your role is now.
So, yeah, I started with the Galaxy in 2012. funny story about, I guess, getting into the sports industry because as many people know, it can be a hard nut to crack on the entry level. Everybody's just really fighting to get in, especially here in the United States. And while I was in college, I worked for a CRM consultant all the way through college and got some really good experience under my belt. And I think that was a really great launch pad for when I met Aaron at AAG and them taking a chance on me, very early in my career without any prior sports experience. So feel very blessed, I guess, to be part of this team and part of this industry when it is, like I said, very difficult to get into. So, yeah, I've been here since 2012 and been in a very similar role, the past 5 years, but
the landscape's changing so much. So, the conversation that I had with Aaron where he talked about, Aaron Lavallee, who's at AEG, Galaxy and the Kings are both under that same banner. And he sort of talked about that email workflow for when people come aboard as a ticket, they buy a single ticket and then they go into a different path. That the landscape, and I've got slides, and if you go to chiefmartech.com, every year they release here's all the tools in the marketing tech landscape. 7 years ago it was 150. The latest infographic has 5,000. So the landscape and the ability for you to, I guess, dive in on the data and do different things, that's vastly changing your time at the Galaxy, hasn't it?
Definitely, yeah. When I started, I was replacing someone in my role, but it was still a very new role for my club. And you'll see in other teams in our league and even in the United States, there's still a lot of people that don't have someone who's dedicated to CRM and database marketing specifically. And so it was a role where I had to really build from the ground up in a lot of ways. It started primarily with email marketing, which is a very easy, I guess, channel to get into.
So take us through that, because you're right. And again, some of the conversations at Seed are always good. And I spend a lot of time more in the CRM data track. Is that everyone's on a different part of the journey, and it's an ongoing journey. I don't think anyone put up their hand and said we've got it right.
Yeah,
right, the holy grail of marketing automation, that from new customer to highest value customer, there's always work to do to improve that. So early on, and you're right, the email marketing, or I'm sending out the emails and you're creating the audiences. What was the first couple of things that you had to first look at to get that started? Because you don't want to, a lot of people go, okay, here's our whole list. We're sending out the same email to everybody.
Exactly. Yeah, it was very much sort of a batch and blast operation at the beginning, and focusing on segmentation was very important. Getting the right audience, even if it means a smaller segment of people, and me having to have that conversation with business leaders at the club, saying if we do this segmented list, it's going to do better, and we're going to have to spend less resources to do it and contact less people in order to achieve our objectives. Some of those, just because it was sort of new to our club, were difficult conversations, especially with sponsorship, and they wanted to,
they're attracted by that big number.
Exactly.
Spencer,
impressions.
We know that you've got 100,000 people there or whatever. Please blast them, right? And, and it is a term that makes your skin crawl when they say, can you just send out an email blast? It's like, well, no. You've got to be able to tell me who you want it to go to, because I can't sell tyres to a 14-year-old because they don't have a car, and it doesn't make sense. And
as you guys know, saying no is not usually an acceptable answer. You have to come up with a good alternative. And I think in a lot of ways we've moved in the right direction as far as segmentation goes, where I don't get asked that question anymore of, hey, send this to our newsletter list, send a dedicated blast to our big list. They say, hey, can I be included in this? Or do you have a segment of people that would be right for this? For example, I just had a great conversation with one of my colleagues about we have a camps and clinics segment that we send for information about soccer camps and clinics and tournaments. And they said, hey, we have this company who's really great. They're really geared towards families and children. and parents, we'd like to include them in the segment. And then it was a good conversation. That's a great idea.
Yep.
So I think the mentality has definitely changed with the company, and it's probably a lot of other teams can probably say the same thing.
But you have to get those wins for them to win that trust of saying, look, I'm going to send it to 10% of that list, but I can get the right result. And so once you start having those wins of targeting the right people and getting the open rates and the clicks that they want, then you build that trust, and that's just a thing that happens over time, doesn't it?
Yep, absolutely.
And so take us through. What I want to do is take us through some of the tools and the tech stack. Because I said there are 5,000 different tools, and a lot of them are getting added to the mix. A lot of the people making a lot of money in marketing tech, the people selling the marketing tech tools. What are some of the tools that you're using to send? What's your CRM framework, your email? How are you doing that kind of thing? You want to take us through what you're using?
Yeah, so we're currently at this time we're in a pretty transitional position.
I think that's the thing. I think everybody is.
Everybody's always changing. It's never right, and there's a lot of actually really interesting stories about how we have either decided to change or we've had to change through no decision of our own. Yep. Especially being part of a corporate entity like AEG, but currently, right now, technology-wise, CRM, we're using sort of a customized platform that's built inside of our ticketing system, Outbox, which is interesting because Outbox was sort of the primary platform that Access.com used as their backend for a ticketing system. Yep. And the idea was that we'd build this contact management system within it, and our sales reps would have one-stop shop for both processing tickets and logging their activities. And then the funny story to that is that AEG made a deal with Veritix, if you've heard of that platform, and basically said, well, LA Galaxy, LA Kings, everybody, you have to move all of your ticketing over to Veritix. Yeah. So currently we have the CRM system that's sort of housed in a ticketing system that we don't use anymore. So we're looking at a lot of different vendors. On the corporate level, we have a deal with Core and to use the Microsoft Dynamics platform. So we're looking to possibly switch to that, but there's still a lot of things that we need to answer. But I think, it sounded like a good plan at the time, but sometimes circumstances change and
it is very tough that to build something bespoke these days, which is why more people are moving towards a solution that sits on top of Dynamics. Yeah. So are you still to do the segmentation, that kind of thing? Are you diving as far deep as writing SQL and things like that, or how do you go about doing it?
Yeah, so sort of to kind of cover our other main platform for marketing automation right now, we use Adobe Campaign.
Okay. Yep.
The artist formerly known as Neil Lane. And then in a lot of ways, we are considering other tools as well, and we're probably likely making a transition soon. But that's our primary marketing automation tool. And on the segmentation side, the method that I've used is, the biggest segment of our data comes from our ticketing system. So typically, I'll pull queries from our ticketing system, whether it's been Outbox or now Veritix, where I'll pull a lot of our segments for whether it's email marketing or our digital advertising and social marketing. I'll pull it from that primarily. But then we have a lot of other data sources, whether it's from sweepstakes or from our team ambassadors doing street team type marketing where they're capturing data through iPads or data cards. We have to sort of aggregate that and sort of put them into segments. And kind of the biggest challenge with that right now is we don't really have a central data warehouse that we can put all these data sources into.
Yep.
I'm gathering it from 5 or 6 different sources and sort of pulling it together in a list in Excel and then uploading it either to our CRM system or our marketing automation system or sending it to our digital advertising agency, which in itself is probably not a great idea, sending a CSV of data to somebody. We have a signed agreement where hopefully we have our data security insured, but still not ideal. So I think us developing this data warehouse, and we're sort of teaming together with the LA Kings and AEG Sports to pull together our resources and to have that. So.
And that's one of the advantages. As much as, sometimes changes are forced upon you being in a larger group, the advantages are you've also got these shared resources of AEG and, other clubs under the banner, and the fact that, access to people like Aaron that make your job easier. But, yeah, that situation of getting all this data and it's coming into different places, and I'm still using Excel and that kind of thing is still pretty prevalent. For most people, because that 360-degree view is that ideal. I want every bit of data hitting it and coming back and tagging that they've read emails and they've done something on social and that they've visited the website. That is the ideal sort of pinnacle where you're trying to go. So if that's your tech stack, with Adobe sort of running all the marketing automation, do you want to take us through? The majority of your work, is it mainly in focused on ticket sales, sort of discussing ticket sales, season ticket and groups, as well as sponsorship partnership work? Is that sort of the areas of your work?
Yeah, so a very large objective of what my department does is focused on ticket sales.
Yeah.
The LA Galaxy, is and has been for years, I think the top of MLS as far as team performance goes, and even with how we've done business wise, we've done very well. With that being said, we still have to sell tickets. We're still in a position where we can get a sellout crowd on a regular basis. We are in a position, but we have to do the work in order to do it. And so ticket sales, that makes ticket sales a big part of the objectives of our campaigns. And I think there's not very many clubs who don't have that objective, unless you got Steph Curry suiting up for your team.
Yeah.
Usually that's an objective for you. So
it's very much, it is very much, I've said it before, it's all about the cheeks and the seats. And what I did like about the conversation in the data track of the CRM at Seat was that there was a lot of people talking about email, and it's not as sexy as building out a chatbot or trying out new forms of social, but it's still a consistent driver for revenue. Because if you can get your segments right and get the right people into your database, it drives tickets. What's the mix of? When we had lucky enough to have Aaron talk to the A-League clubs. So the A-League is effectively the equivalent of the MLS in Australia, and Australia has a real strong membership culture. So people become a member as opposed to a season ticket holder, and there's a lot of effort in the membership marketing. What's the mix at StubHub? How many from a member point of view to a ticketed sort of mix? So
as far as membership goes, the past 2 or 3 years, we've really strived to move ourselves to more of a membership model.
Yep.
We call them season ticket members, as opposed to season ticket holders. If any of our new employees say season ticket holders, we correct them right away.
Because it has an identity tie to it. Like you feel like part of a club rather than a transactional. I think it is just a mindset of saying, oh, you're a member of our club.
Yeah.
And so that focus, how's that gone?
I think it's gone well. And sort of some of the things that we're doing to sort of at least convince our members that they're moving more towards a membership model is giving them some really exclusive experiences that they wouldn't get otherwise. It's more than just a discount on a ticket for an entire year. We've done things like we've split them up and we've called them neighborhoods. We've split the stadium into sections where sort of, eighths, where each of our service executives sort of supervises a section, and they do special neighborhood events where, one service exec before a game will invite just his neighborhood to a barbecue prior to the game, and maybe a player will appear, or maybe we'll have an engagement with our club president at the stadium club after the game, or an exclusive photo on the pitch or an autograph session, exclusive watch parties, things like that we've tried to make our members feel like they're part of the club, that they're getting something that nobody else is getting.
And you helping them to also identify themselves and put their hand up and say, I'm a member, whether it be with specific merch to say, I'm a member, I'm a proud member since? What are the kind of things you're doing there?
So, from a merchandise standpoint, we usually have a scarf in the soccer world is a common thing. Last year,
does it work in LA? Is it too hot? I mean, I'm quite happy wearing my Collingwood scarf at the MCG in the middle of winter.
I thought about that. I'm like, would people even want to wear scarves? And I mean, the really nice knit scarves are pretty thick, but they still wear them in a soccer game. And we sort of, in a lot of ways, to cut costs, we have sort of these kind of more lighter polyester scarves. I'm like, those are sort of more LA friendly, but I mean, in the soccer culture, scarves are still a big part of it. And even this last year, we, as a reward for renewing their membership early, we had an Adidas hooded sweatshirt with that said LA Galaxy season ticket member on, and then an Adidas patch on it as well. And so things like that we try to help them identify themselves. And then a big part of soccer in probably most parts of the world is having a supporters club inside of a season ticket membership. So we have those supporters clubs that they create their own merchandise, their own identity as well. They have their own logos, they have their own events, and they're the ones, sort of at the center of the stadium singing and cheering with the flags.
And they're the ones that become ambassadors for the LA Galaxy. Yes. They're the ones that convert people. You would have seen the same living in Adelaide. Everyone would have said, who do you now barrack for? And I think that's, from a membership point of view, I liken what the AFL has done and the NRL is following suit in Australia is it gets to guilt level, in that when you get to that top level fan and, you become a member of the club, when they see someone, they go, oh, do you follow the Galaxy? The second question is, are you a member? Yeah. And so they start doing the marketing for you. Yeah. And so it's a really good culture fit to be doing that.
Yep. And I think in the United States, where soccer is still very much a growing sport, that word of mouth definitely helps us a lot. And I think the other biggest asset we have is just getting people into our stadium. There's people who might never have been to a soccer game before in their life, but if they come to StubHub Center with a packed crowd, with I think soccer crowds are louder than any other crowd in American sports, and more coordinated as well. Yep. It's a very unique experience, and I think that's how a lot of people get hooked.
Yep.
Is when they come and see it for themselves in person.
Yeah, well, we came to a game, LA Galaxy game with Steven Gerrard played. I think it was his first game. Yeah. Came here with Rob Skilaciotti and had an absolute ball. And I will add this for the sounds of the game, but when when your ground announcer, someone scores, and the whole crowd goes thank you, and then they respond, "You're welcome."
Yes,
like it's awesome, and and I think there was 4 goals scored, and so we were all set for it next time, and
they cheer the player, they say the player's name, and then the crowd responds, and then the PA announcer says thank you and you're welcome.
Yeah, the whole crowd. So I mean, and it is something that is unique to football. Yeah. It's the same that's happening in, you're trying to get that European feel of what it's like to be at a game. It's the same thing that happens at Active Support, happens in Australia, and it is a different experience. I don't know if you were at the esports panel that Charlie was on. I thought some of that stuff was fascinating, that he was talking about the data side of gaming and FIFA, and some of the the relationship you guys now have with EA Sports around the association of, if someone picks Galaxy as their team in FIFA, they become more highly engaged, spend more money, buy more tickets. Have you been blown away by some of that data and some of the insights that are coming out of FIFA?
Yeah, I've only gotten a really quick batch of that data. We're getting to the point where our relationship with MLS is they give us, it's a good, data-wise, it's a very strong relationship, in my opinion. They will share with us everyone who's subscribed from the league level, everyone who's said that their favorite team is our team, and then any game that they promote through their promotion company, Soccer United Marketing, in our market, they'll also give us the buyer data to that. So it's a very great resource for additional lead data. And how EA Sports, their partnership with EA Sports folds into that is very soon that engagement data with our club is going to be part of that daily feed that we will get access to. And I think, what a lot of things that they discussed in that session, which was one of my favorite sessions, probably because we were discussing something that was brand new in our market, but also I'm secretly just the night before I was bored in the hotel and I watched the Street Fighter V Evo tournament in Los Angeles, and Mandalay Bay was packed, and I watched it for like 2 hours. I don't know what happened to me, but it was very engaging. But
so we'll get into we'll park that. We'll get back to esports.
Yeah, we can talk about esports. But as far as that relationship with EA Sports, I think that data is going to be an important way for us to reach out to a segment of people, especially in our country, who engage with soccer with EA Sports, with the FIFA game in particular, because it's an interesting conversation when you interview even an NFL player, an NBA player, and ask them, their get to know you page, what's your favorite video game? Yeah. A lot of times they'll say FIFA 17. Yeah. And a lot of these other people that maybe never watch soccer on TV or in person, they love FIFA. Yeah. And there's a lot of people who are engaging with the logos, the sponsor, the jersey sponsor, and the players of our club in this game. And I have actually talked to a few people who have said, I got into soccer playing FIFA. So I think it'll be a good resource for us to try and market to those people in a unique way, to try and say, hey, it's great in real life as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Some of the things that came out of that panel, and Charlie was coming at it more from, hey, here's the data and how the league are leveraging it. And so it was like, how can you're going to get new fans that are going to realize, this team is just down the road, or I can drive an hour and I can go to a game live. And so how can they tie the enjoyment that they're having playing FIFA to, an MLS game? And one of the things that Charlie said that they've done with a couple of teams and will do more was when a player scores a goal, rather than put the true vision on the screen, they'll show the celebration in FIFA form, FIFA form in the computer to make that connection for fans in stadium to say, I've seen that celebration. That's the same thing, or see how lifelike it is if the player's doing the same sort of action, and to start tying the fun that they're having with the game with the actual real game. And it's going to be a terrific source for new fans. Yeah,
it's definitely exciting. And the fact that the league can broker a partnership like that, a mutually beneficial partnership that involves obviously our rosters, our jerseys, some of our stadiums, and to get something like that, fan data from that resource, I think is a brilliant idea. So I'm looking forward to how we can utilize that information.
And it is becoming a new broadcast platform effectively, in the audiences that are there. So there's a talk of a few teams doing kit reveals exclusively on their first reveal on FIFA, because that's where their most highly engaged fans are. Then they'll share it, and then you share it on other platforms. I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, if you went to someone and, when we first met, we're going to release the kit on a game, because you would traditionally go, we've got to do it on TV or we've got to do it on social exclusively. But to have a game being so embedded into the game itself, but also have that global reach, is a really fascinating way. But I wanted to tap into your passion for esports. Are you a gamer yourself, or are you just following along and interested from a sports business point of view, or a mashup of both?
A little bit of a mashup of both. I think growing up, I grew up in Idaho, which in a sort of a country college town. So honestly, there wasn't a lot to do. A lot of the people that lived around me were farmers, and that wasn't really my game. So I played a lot of video games, let's just say, growing up and a little bit after college. And long story short, I got married. I ran out of time and money because it's an expensive thing to be into. But I still have some passion for those games. And it's just been interesting to see how esports has grown globally and in our country as well. For me, like I said, to see a Street Fighter 5 tournament air live on ESPN2, I mean, cable-wise, that's a national broadcast.
Yep.
And I've seen, I'll log into my ESPN3 app and I'll see a League of Legends tournament on it almost, on a weekly basis. I'll see something on there. And
so it's just getting that mainstream, getting that mainstream
yes.
cred. You're getting the buzz that a lot more and more pro teams are. Yeah. Like the Crows recently purchased Legacy in my chat with, and because it's an audience extension play and access to more data from your point of view, so it's a natural extension in that space. Yeah, exactly. And AEG itself as well. I don't know if they are majority owners, if they own just a portion, but just purchased Immortals, which is also, from my knowledge, is a pretty big esports team here in the United States. And I think the purpose of that acquisition wasn't just on the team side, but because this team hosts a lot of tournaments in the United States, and we just in LA alone, we have Staples Center to utilize, Microsoft Theater, club. What is it called now? The Novo, sort of a smaller club, in addition to a bunch of other smaller venues that would be great venues for these types of events. And that's the thing that, the learning hurdles for people who don't understand esports. First is that the level of competition and the fervor by which the fans are following it. And the second one is that they do turn up in big numbers to stadiums to watch these games. Yeah, I don't remember which tournament it was specifically, but I think last year we had one of the major League of Legends tournaments here at Staples Center. Yeah, that was their effectively their grand final of the World Championship. Yeah, and it sold out Staples Center, I think, 2 days in a row. Yep. And 46 million people watched online. Yeah, and when I went around, because I was like, oh, I didn't know this was happening at Staples Center. I'm probably not going to get a comp for it. Yeah. And no, I can't even buy my own ticket for it. It's sold out. Like, I wanted to see it just because I was mostly curious. And I went around the office and said, hey guys, did you realize that our Staples Center and our primary AEG vendor sold out a video game tournament? And I showed them like the link to the page and everything. And people in our office just had no idea that it was like this. And I tried to have a conversation with our one of our venue managers as well, as like, hey, we should get into this. Like, there's some real opportunities here. It might not be some of these bigger tournaments, but I mean, we do a lot of different things in our venue, whether it's in our tennis stadium, that's sort of a smaller stadium. We do boxing matches. We've done bull riding there. I'm like, if the weather is nice and we can get the bandwidth, like, we could do an esports tournament in one of these smaller venues on our campus. And, there's just such a good opportunity. And even I think it's beneficial to start creating those relationships early on, sort of a low point of entry, because there's a really good potential that could blow up, and it'll be a great investment, right? There's massive potential for that. I mean, a few of the conversations I did have with the IT and tech guys at Seat was, make sure you've got enough bandwidth, because if you want to host an esports tournament, that's one thing that they true. And if their rig is skipping a frame, they will freak out at you. Exactly. Back to LA Galaxy. I wanted to just sort of take me through back to that ticket sales focus. Was there a particular campaign that you've done recently that one helped drive ticket sales, which again, it's all about the cheeks and the seats, but where you were able to leverage other properties to potentially get new fans, which is always important. Like, you always want to get new and fresh data into your system. There's a yearly campaign that I think we've been doing for at least the last 3 or 4 years. We call it the Summer of Soccer campaign. But every summer here in LA, there's usually an opportunity to either have the Galaxy play against one of these European powerhouses. I think a couple years ago it was Barcelona. Yep. Before that, we hosted Real Madrid here at StubHub Center to a sold-out crowd. And we have those connections where we can
either play one of those teams or have exclusive access to ticket inventory from to these preseason European friendlies that are happening here in LA. For example, this year we played Manchester United here at StubHub Center, and then we also supported Manchester City against Real Madrid at the Coliseum, which is occurring this next week.
So how do you leverage those big assets and attractive games for the LA market? I want to see Man U, or I want to see Man City, Real.
Yeah. So part of this Summer of Soccer campaign that we do every year, and for this year, is we will bundle one of these events with these huge European clubs with 2 or 3 Galaxy games, and we'll even say, hey, if you buy by this certain time, we'll even throw in an additional Galaxy game, maybe a Wednesday game that we maybe need to fill out a little bit more to really give them some incentive, like, hey, this is great value, and to really try to tap into that segment of soccer fans here in the United States that aren't into MLS yet. There's still a group of those people that are, either from that country or into the Premier League or the Bundesliga, and because of the quality of play as it's perceived. And like I said, our biggest asset is getting people in our stadium.
It's the live experience.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, because it is the case that if you're not at the physical location of where the top end talent are, and in this case, the Europe leagues, you can sort of have that, I'm a football snob and I only want to watch the best. Yeah. But if you actually still want to have the feeling of being at a live game, you can only go to the games you can actually physically get to. Yeah. And that converting those types of fans, or just the pure end of fans, I'm just a fan of sport and live sport, consuming it in that way is the right way, and you're sort of selling the experience. It's still vital. Yeah,
and I think with this campaign in particular, the Summer of Soccer campaign, creatively, we tried to pair our biggest stars, Giovanni Dos Santos, who's a very well-known star in the LA, Latino community, plays for the Mexican national team. We paired him with whether it was Paul Pogba or Sergio Aguero, Ronaldo, some of these other players, saying, like, check out all these stars. And we really, I think for the first time, did a very strong multi-channel approach to this campaign. Our bread and butter is, like I said, usually email marketing. And
so what else you did other than email marketing to your prospects? You probably sent a different offer or something to your season ticket members. Not this, because they're not season ticket holders. Your season ticket members got a special offer to get to these games. And then what did you do outside of email?
So like I said, our bread and butter is usually email marketing and also sales calls. So we loaded a lot of who we thought had good potential for this package in our CRM system and passed it to our sales team. So we used sort of a very similar segment for all the channels, and that segment for this campaign in particular consisted of, one, people who've been to our games is usually great candidates to upgrade to a larger package, a 3 or 4 game package. And then we have access from these past European games that we have. And like I said, we have access to the data from MLS, where they've hosted Gold Cup and Mexican national team games and a number of other friendlies in our market where, those people aren't in our system, but they're soccer fans. They're great candidates for this campaign. And also, other sweepstakes. And when we announce these games, it's a great opportunity to capture additional data from these other fans, because we'll do a sweepstakes, or we'll do early access, pre-sale access to these tickets. Just give us your email address and a phone number. And then, boom, we have a great lead for this when they don't win the sweepstakes or when the pre-sale gets sent out. So that's sort of the segment. And then some of the other channels aside from CRM and email marketing is we did some really targeted audiences from an digital advertising standpoint.
And is that, were you doing AdWords, Facebook, Twitter? Was it what a particular...
I helped with the segmentation, and another group sort of does the management of those campaigns. But I know I attached tracking codes to each of the links, and our Google AdWords campaign, I think, was the most successful with that example. The Facebook, we did a lot of Facebook marketing, and obviously Facebook has its advantages with lookalike audiences and saying, this is my segment of people. I want to find people who look like them. And then DoubleClick, I think our agency does through that. So you're surfing, Fox Soccer or some other random website. And I was obviously, because I'm on a website all day, so I'm just getting inundated with Summer of Soccer ads on my personal computer, so I know it's working, right? So that was another major channel. We did a big direct mail piece for this as well, which I think still might be sort of an underrated channel for a lot of people. It might not work in every market, but we do. Every time we run a mailing campaign, I do a matchback analysis to sort of attribute the sales that did occur, and I can match back, sometimes 5 or 6 times my investment to these mailer campaigns. And it's hard to measure because you don't know if they're like, oh, I got a piece of mail, I'm going to go to the website right now. But I think it's a strong influencer.
Oh, completely. I mean, yeah, we just need someone to develop an envelope so we can that has open rate tracking. So, but you know,
a signal back to your system.
Maybe someone embed an RFID that once the glue is unsealed, it sends us a message. But the open rates for mail, if they're not bills, are really high.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you at least know that if you've got if you've got your data right, and you're not wasting it, and so you're not just sending it to everyone. If you're just sending it to a really smart segment, you will open it. And that's the key thing. So I wanted to just before we wrap up, I wanted to get some of your key takeaways. Recently, we're in Atlanta for SEAT. Other than the esports panel, which we both loved with Charlie and Tom and the guys there. What were some of your key takeaways?
Some of the sessions I enjoyed. There was a very interesting session about the ticketing landscape. That was, first of all, I mean, a lot
of war stories. I would assume to start with.
Yes, the title was "Ticketing Wars: A Fight to the Death." I'm like, oh, that's intense. And I think they had someone from Pacquiao on there. Yep. They had someone from SeatGeek. They had all these different people. I'm like, my God, this could get interesting. And they all played nice, but you see some of these secondary markets like SeatGeek and StubHub, which are becoming primary ticket vendors for some of these teams. And I didn't have time to ask, but I was like, how is that going? It's sort of flipping the script with that, but then just, preventing fraud and also finding ways from my standpoint for what I do of capturing more people's information and preferences on the purchase level. Cause a lot of the problem is that one person will buy a ticket for 5 people. I don't know person 2 through 5 is, and learning who those people are, whether it's through transferring their tickets digitally, emailing them.
Yeah, so there was a lot of conversation, and we got to use the at Ballpark MLB solution, where you just get the ticket and then you can forward it on, and the fact that you're forwarding it on means you're getting the data from that person. I think that was one of the good takeaways. There are obviously a lot of people in the tech side of how Wi-Fi can capture those other people, and those kind of things. And I also caught up with Josh previously on Famous Fan, where the fans that get caught on the Jumbotron can then go to a site and screen cap them being on the Jumbotron. So it's another way to get data. And he's had some really good results in the football space to see how many people actually go on. The other one was, and it escapes me. Were you in the Tradable Bits one with talking about music festivals and what they do for data?
I didn't attend that one.
So the one takeaway that Chris Freet doubled down and said, "Did everyone write this down?" A lot of apps or sweepstakes and those kind of things are turning on like Facebook login, which is great because you get the Facebook data and you stake it in their interest graph. Yeah, and you get their handle, but you get their interest graph and what they like and those kind of things. What they do at music festivals a lot, they also allow Spotify login and allow people to log in and use Spotify as a way to fill out their profile. And you end up with a completely different data set and interest set of, well, this is the taste and that kind of thing. And especially if you're going for, and I think this is what excited Chris Freet being in the college scene, it's they know that their audience is are Spotify users. So allowing them, making it easy, I'll just log in with Spotify as another piece of data, because you're getting a different profile of your fan by finding out what they're listening to.
Yeah, and I think, along with that, there was there was a good session, I think, where a lot of the NFL teams presented about venue apps and team apps, and that's been an objective of our digital department for years. And I think we're getting close to possibly developing one. And I think from a data standpoint, just like you said, with gathering preferences through social login, Spotify login, having an app that's capturing all sorts of engagement data and having that fed back to our data warehouse, I think is going to be a good advantage, and once that project is developed and completed, hopefully, we can get stuff like what merchandise they've bought, what food stands do they go to, how we can sort of, especially on the membership side, how
that's what I was just going to say.
We can give them special experiences that, they don't know how we know what they know, but we find out.
It is a bit that way, but I mean, I think the big advantage, in the app space is how the app, and they're doing it now, how it can change when you're in stadium, but how it also can, it is the personalization aspect. And so if you remember, your app is slightly different, and it's, and it does make you feel like a member in the same way that you're wearing your scarf, that your app says, oh, welcome again, Spencer, looking forward to the game, here's your ticket, all of those kind of things, so that they feel like it's been built for them. And I think that's the next. There was a lot of discussions on that personalization, both of the advertising and the content delivery. Yeah, I think that's what the next 2 or 3 years are going to hold.
Yeah. The one other thing I'd say about the SEAT conference as a whole is it's one that I'd personally recommend, and the sessions are great. But in my opinion, the networking is the biggest asset. And I was talking to someone else there, and I said if I didn't go to this conference, I wouldn't know anybody outside of my company that does what I do. Yeah. And for people that do what I do, we can typically be sometimes a one-man army, maybe this wizard in the corner of the office that nobody knows exactly what the CRM and database person is actually doing, but we know that he's helping somehow. So to meet sort of other fellow nerdy wizards as myself and talk shop has been a great advantage for me. There's people that, I have friendships with now through this conference. And, if there's people that have thought about attending, I definitely recommend it from a networking standpoint. And just when we have opportunities to have roundtables and discuss everyone's different challenges, you'll know that, a lot of times I look to myself and I'm like, man, I really need to get my stuff together. Yep. And then you go to those conferences and you say, oh, that person really has their stuff together. Oh, that person, I'm in a lot better shape than that person. You realize everyone's sort of at a different level. And when it comes to, especially the technology side of database marketing, it can be a slow process that is going to be a continual process to get your integrations right, to get the data moving the way it should, and to act on it in an automated and thoughtful way. So having those conversations at SEAT, I think, to me, are a very valuable asset. Yeah,
completely, because it is you do understand and effectively benchmark where you're at and discuss the same problems, because everyone's having the same problems and how they go about tackling and solving them. And so you can, it is in those networking conversations, whether they're happening in a hallway at lunchtime or at 3 a.m. in the morning, right? You are having those that you can implement, tomorrow, as soon as you're back. Is there any, how do you decompress all the takeaways from SEAT? Do you have a process? Are you going to spend the weekend looking over your business cards, connect with people? Did you take a lot of notes? How do you try to at least capture? Do you have to write a report to say this is what I learned?
I usually try to write a report to my supervisor to sort of illustrate the value of the conference, but also to let them know that we have some good ideas. But this time I flew home and we had a game.
Yep.
Like 3 hours after I got off the airplane. So I haven't had a ton of time to decompress, but typically after the conference, I'll take my stack of business cards that I gathered, maybe do some LinkedIns, maybe reach out with an email if I had a really great conversation with somebody. Take that notes and maybe do, a one-page bulleted summary that I can send to some executives in the club. We're going to say, hey, here's some great ideas that I got from this conference. One, it's not a waste of everybody's money, but two, there's a few things here that we can implement and get some quick wins on. There's also a few things that are going to take a few months or years, but there are actionable ideas here that we can work with.
Can you do the one of the additions I thought were really good with the visual representations of the panel sessions where they had an artist there sort of building out those.
I don't know if you saw me tweet that out, but I was like, I wonder how much this guy costs, because maybe next time we have a club staff meeting, we can get one of these guys over here. That was really cool to see them, with the drawings and
so there's a few that were taken snaps of the visual representation of the panel, and it helps you put it together. A friend of mine, Link Azalea, teaches it, and I might actually take her up and pick her brain on how to do it, because it is a really good way to take notes. I've tried it. I'm halfway through doing my seat recap. For some reason, there's lots of pictures of beer across the page, but I sort of tried to recap and do bullet points around all the conversations, so I can go back on, oh yeah, that's right, I had that conversation with Spencer, and this is what my trip was. So there is different ways, but you do need to take it. It's half an hour just to jot down all the things, and because it sort of helps it lock it in a little bit. Yeah,
part of the maybe the problems with conferences like that is you get all these ideas, and a lot of them are very macro level ideas, and you have to be real with yourself and be like, I'm not going to do this year. I can move in that direction. And a lot of times people are in these panels are giving you their very best case scenario, maybe a little bit exaggerated versions of what they're doing. And so you have to realize, within the scope of what your business is doing now, what you're able to do in the short term and what you can move towards in the long term.
So we'll wrap up. I just checked the Twitter feed. Bass did ask a question that I think we've covered. He was asking, what your biggest success story from a B2C point of view with data as the starting point, and how do you leverage them from a B2B point of view? But I think, B2C, we've talked about what you're doing from a ticketing point of view, and we've also talked the B2B piece from the sponsorship point of view. So I think we've covered all the Twitter questions. Where can people find you on the internet to say that they've listened?
Okay, so I think my Twitter is at Spencer Horner. Jumped on that handle good. And then I'm on LinkedIn too, if anyone wants to hit me up there. But I'm relatively active on Twitter. I don't know if our digital team, I don't know if they think my Twitter game is very, very good, but I try, and you'll see also that I'm a big Utah Jazz fan. So if you follow me on Twitter, you might subject yourself to too much Utah Jazz information.
It's all right. You've got a couple of Aussies on the roster. Yeah. Joe Ingles re-signed, and hopefully Dante has a breakout year this year. So
but I'd love to interact with anybody who has any questions on either LinkedIn or Twitter. Happy to have a conversation about sports or talk shop in general. So
thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for the invite.
Sign up for Sports Geek News at sportsgeekhq.com/sign up now.
Thanks again to Spencer Horner, who is now post-interview joined the Sports Biz Slack community. So please join Spencer and myself, ask him a few questions. I did actually ask the channel if they had any questions, and they actually inundated me throughout the interview. So I didn't get to a lot of the questions. We did cover some of the ground. So I'm sure Spencer will jump in there and answer a few of those questions as well. Just go to sportsgeekhq.com/Slack. I did promise in the previous episode a bit more of a recap from Seat Atlanta, and sort of go through some of the panels that I really did like, including the ones that we mentioned in the interview today with Spencer. Obviously the esports panels with Tom Halls and Charlie Shin. Tom diving in into esports post his career at Formula E, when he sort of got a taste of it, is now doing a lot of work in esports as one of the leaders in the space. And terrific to have Charlie's point of view from their partnership with MLS, and Seat rookie and former podcast guest Brian Costello did a terrific job moderating that panel. And it was really interesting hearing from Robert, and I'm gonna muck up some names here, but Robert, I'm going to say Occolini, but I know him as AKA Bump on Twitter from the Turner Sports Group and running E-League and sort of what Turner are doing in the esports space. So I thought that was really interesting. And it was just a good discussion around where esports is headed and how sports can leverage it. I absolutely loved the innovation panel led by Jack Elkins, again a former guest, and I really should touch base to check in with what Jack's doing. He's always doing exciting things, but he had a really great panel where he had Daniel Brew from the Warriors talking about some of the initiatives that they're doing around the new stadium and how the technology is going to affect the fan experience. And I really enjoyed Janet Smirka from the Mall of America. So the Mall of America has so many people going through and has so many downloads and people using the Wi-Fi, but they're still looking at that customer experience. How can they make it better? And there was some really good insights on that panel as well from Mia White from her time at the Red Bulls, and in her short stint so far, she's just recently moved over to the Miami Heat. So really enjoyed those sessions. Absolutely top-notch, terrific work by the moderators, but the panel really delivered. And for this episode, there's got to be a special shout out to the one and only Mr. Chip Foley. He did a really good job despite technical difficulties with the welcome address. Chip now knows how difficult that is. As someone who's done it myself with no voice, it can be hard. But I was really pleased and really I thought they did a terrific job, the guys at AmpThink, with the Friends of Chip Foley campaign that they ran on the Monday night. I definitely put myself in the camp of Friends of Chip Foley, and so well done to AmpThink, and I look forward to catching up with Chip when he's next in Melbourne. But it is really lucky that we live in different hemispheres, because I think the world would spin off its axis if Chip and I were in the same town too often. But yeah, I always love hanging out with Chip. And one of the highlights, sort of post-seat, on the day after seat ended, I was lucky enough with Daniel from the Warriors to get a bit of a tour of the NBA studios at Turner. And especially for me, as a long-time listener and fan of the starters, I was able to get go into the set, get a few photos, got a photo on the set, able to sit in Lee Ellis's seat, former podcast guest, and chat with the guys behind the scenes. So yeah, occasionally there are things that make me a bit of a fanboy, and hanging out and checking out the starter set is one of those. I really, really do appreciate, one, what they do, but also the journey that those guys have gone on to get the success that they're having. They're doing a terrific job. So last but not least, is a bit of a shout out to Lenny and Darshan and the guys at Tradable Bits. They did a terrific panel with Eric Klein, talking about how music festivals are activating, and as I sort of said there in the conversation with Spencer, integrating their website with Spotify login was one of the really big takeaways of Seat for me. And so we're going to be pulling some of that info and some of those tactics into what we do around Sports Geek campaigns. So we're going to be pulling together those best practice campaigns from the music industry and how they can be applied to sports. As you know, I've used the phrase "steal with pride." We'll be doing that, making those tweaks to help your sponsorship team and partnership team sell more campaigns and sell more digital campaigns with confidence. I think that's the key thing. Until next episode, stay tuned at the end of this. I have got the Your Welcome clip from my visit to the LA Galaxy, the game that I went to in 2015 that we discussed with Spencer Horner. It is one of the best integrations. It's not even an integration, it's completely organic, but the fact that it was effectively left hand and right hand, that they're in tune with the ground announcer, it's absolutely perfect. So stay tuned to the end of that. And thanks again to Spencer Horner for coming on. Until next episode, my name is Sean Callanan, and you've been listening to the Sports Geek Podcast.
Join over 1,000 sports business executives in Sports Biz Slack. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/Slack. Please leave a review on iTunes. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes.
Find out how to drive between $8,000 and $30,000 in profit for each digital campaign you sell sponsors. Check out SportsGeekCampaigns.com. Just like Jimmy Butler, you can call Sean anytime at 614-407-0407-200.